Our daily Bible reading today comes from Proverbs chapter 8 through chapter 10. And our daily devotional today here at Carrollton Christian Fellowship comes from the very beginning of Proverbs chapter 8. So we're looking at verses 1 through 11. And with Proverbs chapter 8, this is, and we need to keep in mind again, if we recall back to our devotional from a few days ago, from 2 days ago, that and talking about the introduction to the book of Proverbs. And so Solomon's writing there, those first 7 verses, was the introduction to the whole book. So we must always keep that in mind. And so in light of that, in light of what we saw there, in light of that, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord that we saw in verse 7 of Proverbs chapter 1. And so Proverbs chapter 8 is when the fear of the Lord is the chief of our knowledge and understanding, and all that is in verses 1 through 6 as well. We then see that that individual is then able to hear when wisdom calls out to them in their circumstances and in their situation. That's what Solomon is going through there in verses 1 through 6 of chapter 8 now, is that the individual who has the Lord as their chief supplier of their knowledge and their understanding and is gleaning from the Lord and is aware of what the Lord is doing, that individual will recognize when wisdom calls out to them, when they are passing through dangerous passes, when they are passing through plains of different opportunities and different situations. So that individual will be able to listen and hear the voice of wisdom. Then we see verse 7. Verse 7, that what wisdom does is wisdom reveals truth. And that the individual who is listening and who is able to hear wisdom calling out to them, they will have truth revealed to them. Verse 8, that they will be directed then towards righteousness, and they will not be directed towards perversion. So perversion here, and what perversion means is, think of a glass of water, right? Think of a clear, nice, beautiful, seamlessly clear glass of water. Now, what happens when you add something to that glass of water? Well, it's been perverted. It's been changed. It's been altered. It's no longer what it is intended to be. It no longer has the refreshingness and the clarity and the purity that it was intended to have. But instead, it now has impurities that have been added to it. That is what the Lord is talking about. That is what Solomon has observed, is that allowing perversion to be added because we do not listen to wisdom. We do not listen to sound counsel. We do not listen to the Lord. We do not have the Lord's wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as the center point and focal point of our life as we're going about and walking through life. We then see in verse 9, Solomon points out how wisdom from the Lord and wisdom of the Lord and his righteousness, and to be led towards that righteousness, that it is very plain and simple. God's righteousness is plain and simple. The difficulty is not in God's righteousness or seeing God's righteousness or learning God's righteousness. The difficulty comes between the war that happens within inside of us, between the right and the wrong, between the going after righteousness and going after sin, going after unrighteousness, going after perversion. That is where the war happens. The war that happens within our spirit to choose, to make a choice of what we know is to be right. We see that all throughout his word. He has given us his word so that we will know and understand it. It was not given to be confusing, but it was given to be known, to be understood, and to be learned from daily, every day. In verses 10 through 11, we see that wisdom calls out to us and wisdom encourages us to seek the untangible, not the tangible. That the greatest precious things in life are not the tangible things. It is more precious than all the gold that there is, more precious than all the rubies, to have the wisdom that comes from the Lord and that only the Lord can provide. So I hope this can be an encouragement to you. I hope that this can encourage you on stepping out in the things of the Lord, stepping out and going in the direction and how it is that you can discern between what the Lord is calling you to and what the world might be calling you to, or what your flesh might be calling you to. And so there's that distinction that's made. And so a lot of the Proverbs give this. A lot of the Proverbs give us a distinction between righteous and unrighteousness, and the path and the walk of those who are righteous and those who are unrighteous. So I hope this again can be an encouragement to you to step out in the things of the Lord, and that you can listen and hear from the Lord and from His wisdom. But in order to do that, we must first fear the Lord. We must first have a respect that the Lord's knowledge and understanding is high above any knowledge and understanding of this world, any knowledge and understanding of man, any knowledge and understanding of the systems that have been built, the universities, the scholarships, all these things. The Lord's knowledge and understanding is so much further greater. And you must have that fear and that understanding and that respect for the Lord in order to receive and hear from the Lord. Because if we don't have respect for what someone tells us, so like let's say respect from an older generation, as we talked in our Devo yesterday. So if we don't have respect from an older generation, are you going to receive or hear necessarily when that older generation tells you something? No, you're just going to blow it on by. You're just not even going to acknowledge it because you don't view it as worthy. You don't view it as valuable. So it's the same thing with the Lord. Respect the Lord. Respect His knowledge and His understanding as the superior standard for your life. Not university, not scholarship, not the world, not business practices, but the Lord's practices. So again, I hope this will be an encouragement to you, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care. Have a blessed one.